838, Big 550, KTRS. There is a story that's gaining some traction here in St. Louis, and it's by a representative of Imperial, Representative Paul Wieland and his wife. They are suing, saying that they should not have to be held to the contraceptive requirements of the Affordable Care Act. Their attorney, Tim Bells, is with us. Timothy Bells, welcome to KTRS here in St. Louis.
Nice to be here.
What are they so offended by? What don't they want?
Well, let me just tell you what the history of it is, just very briefly. Back in 2012, pursuant to Missouri law, the legislature had provided that on this whole question of contraceptive coverage and insurance, that companies that had plans for their employees could either opt in or opt out of contraceptive coverage. And then they, in a very progressive kind of thing, especially progressive considering it's Missouri, they said employees could then opt in or opt out depending on what the employer had done. So the employer opts out of coverage, the employee can opt back in. If the and if the employer had opted out.
So KTRS, I had an option of whether I wanted to opt into paying for contraceptive coverage or not.
Exactly.
Okay. Even though I've never been asked that question,
Well,
I've lived here 15 years.
No, and many people haven't, but that was the law.
Okay.
I don't know how it was put into practice here.
Okay, got it.
But that was the law. So it honored everybody's conscience. And that's what this case is all about. It's not about telling anybody else what to do. It's just about conscience. It's about private conscience.
So with the Affordable Care Act, that rule went away?
Exactly.
Right.
You took the words out of my mouth. Along comes Obamacare. And also known more politely as the Affordable Care Act, although he calls it Obamacare too. It had this contraceptive mandate in it, and it says all policies are going to have contraceptive coverage. They made an exception for churches, but that was it. Well, then along comes Hobby Lobby.
Catholic hospitals too, I believe, right?
There wasn't really an exception for Catholic hospitals.
Oh, okay.
There was what's called an accommodation, which was kind of a halfway measure.
Gotcha.
Which the hospitals did not find acceptable. But at any rate, the churches got a free ride. So along comes Hobby Lobby, which is neither a nonprofit nor a church. It's a for-profit.
Right.
But it's owned by a family that has, serious religious convictions, and the Green family. And the Supreme Court said in Hobby Lobby that an employer who has religious conscience objections cannot be forced by the federal government to provide contraceptive coverage to its employees.
Actually, it was just some contraception.
It was 4 out of 20.
Right. It was 4 that was offensive to Hobby Lobby, but they're still covering the 16 others or whatever.
They are.
Right.
And that is true of most of the Protestant employers. They are just objecting to the 4 that can operate as abortifacients.
Sure. Okay.
But the Catholics typically object to all 20 of them. All right. So
Catholics object to a lot more than that, but continue on.
Okay. Anyway, I'm not Catholic, so I don't know.
Oh well, I'll teach you a little thing.
All right. Good.
Timothy Bells.
He's going to school you a little bit, apparently.
Anyway, so that was the rule. That's the rule now.
Okay.
A person cannot, in that case, Hobby Lobby, a corporate person, cannot be required.
So Representative Paul Wieland says, hey, I'm paying for health insurance, which is also some of that money is I'm paying for contraception things in which I am morally opposed to.
Exactly.
And so he just wants a division to say, hey, I want my policy not to cover abortion, and so therefore he'll probably, or I should say contraception.
Well, abortion and contraception.
Right. So does he want to pay a little less?
What he wants, it's a little bit more than him just wanting to opt out. He also has three daughters.
Okay.
One of them is a minor. The other 2 are university students that are not minors.
Okay.
The Affordable Care Act requires that he cover them with contraceptive coverage until they're 24. And his argument is very simple. If Hobby Lobby, a for-profit corporation,
Right.
doesn't have to provide this kind of objectionable coverage to its employees, how can the federal government make me provide this to my adult daughters? That's the most important point that he's making.
So his adult daughters don't have a constitutional right in this case.
No.
His constitutional rights trump his daughter's constitutional rights. Let's say his daughter.
Well, they don't have a constitutional right to contraceptives.
Okay, but their rights to have insurance with contraception goes through the father.
Exactly. That is exactly correct.
So the woman doesn't have a right to pick her own health insurance until she's off her father's health insurance.
You know, actually, an adult can go get her own insurance,
But she's under his insurance right now.
but she's under his insurance right now.
Right.
But she can go and get her, and then that would get him off the hook.
Gotcha.
But here's the thing:
Yeah.
he's not trying to say that his daughters can't have contraceptive coverage.
Right.
Maybe for the minor he is, but for the two older daughters, he's not saying that. What they do is their own business. What the government does is its own business. If the government wants to provide them with coverage, if President Obama wants to send them a package of birth control pills every month, he does not have a religious freedom objection to that.
He
What
just
he's
doesn't want to
objecting-
pay for it.
He doesn't want to be a part of he doesn't want to be the conduit.
Okay, so he doesn't want to pay for it, so in other words,
That's correct.
So he, if it's a perfect world, he wants to pay less, so that therefore he can say my money's not going towards contraceptive care.
That is correct.
Okay, as you may or may not know, Catholics are against in vitro fertilization.
Yes, I kind of knew that.
I'm against that, but I'm paying for other people to get in vitro fertilization through insurance. Am I not?
Yes, you probably are.
I don't have any kids who are autistic, but the state of Missouri forces me to cover autism. Matter of fact, I don't have any children or married. Why am I paying for maternity care? So where does it end?
Well, you know, that's the question everybody asks. If you make an exception for one person, you got to make a lot of more exceptions. The problem with that argument, if it's used to try to defeat my client's claim, is that this law, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, has been around for 20 years. There have been very few cases. And in fact, in a case several years ago, the Supreme Court made fun of that very argument. And it said, as long as there have been bureaucrats, the constant refrain of bureaucrats has been, if I make an exception for you, I'm going to have to make an exception for everybody, and therefore no exception. And they just lampooned that idea. They said, it doesn't work out that way. How many religious freedom cases do you see? Not very many.
Well, let me ask you this question. So contraception is not necessarily prescribed for contraception. It's prescribed for all sorts of other reasons outside of contraception. So therefore, I know for a fact that there are Catholic hospitals that once you get a note from a doctor saying, I want to prescribe this for other than contraception needs, that's covered. So,
Right.
Why can't he,
And I think most Catholics don't have an objection to that.
Well, no, I understand that. But the point is, though, it's got to be covered because it can be prescribed for a non-objectionable reason.
Well, that's.
I mean, let's say
that is
his
a very interesting point. There's still nothing that keeps him or his daughters from going and purchasing birth control pills for therapeutic purposes if that's necessary.
No, I understand that.
I mean, it's a few bucks.
Well, if it's a few bucks, you can argue the other way too. It's only a few dollars, and if Catholic hospitals, which are pretty good on the high end of towing the line for the Catholic word, if they can prescribe and pay for contraception for non-contraceptive reasons, well then, I understand he wants to be moral and he wants to live his life, but I mean, really. Doesn't it seem like he's sort of nitpicking because this can be prescribed as a as something that is within his non-objectionable rights, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah.
I mean, you're correct. It can be.
Yeah. So where does this go now?
That's not normal. I think you would agree with me. The normal reason for using.
Oh, I disagree. Oh, there's all sorts of reasons why women are prescribed the pill
I
and
shouldn't
for other
say
reasons.
normal. I'd say, but I mean that's not the usual reason for taking birth control.
Right, but that's what insurance is for. Insurance covers the abnormal, right? I mean, our friend just had a double lung transplant. That's not normal to get the flu and then be in a coma and then have a double lung transplant. That's why you buy insurance.
Yeah, I would say that on the scale of things, a double lung transplant though is an awful lot more money, and usually why we have insurance is for catastrophic purposes.
But it isn't the money he's objecting over. It's the moralistic reason he's paying for it.
It's his being forced to be a conduit for contraceptives, for contraceptive purposes, for his daughters. Yes.
Okay, so where does this go now? Where's the lawsuit now?
We just argued the case orally in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals here in St. Louis, and it's in the bosom of the court, as they say.
So where do you think it's going? Where is it?
I can't predict.
How long?
Can't predict.
How long?
I can't even predict that. Normally it takes a couple of months, maybe a little longer to get an opinion.
Since he's a state elected official, he's getting his health insurance subsidized by the taxpayers. Correct?
Yes.
Yes. So,
part of it. He pays for part of it.
Right. But I mean, a large portion is subsidized by the taxpayers because of his job.
I guess you can say it's subsidized. It's
well, the taxpayers are paying for a portion of his insurance.
The taxpayers are paying for it, but he's earning it because he's an employee.
Okay,
I mean, it's part of his pay.
It's part of his package.
Yes.
But his package is being funded by the taxpayers.
Yes, absolutely.
So what's if I object to, all sorts of things with my tax dollars, and I'm morally objected to X, and yet my tax dollars are going to cover your procedure, which is objectionable to me?
That argument doesn't fly in the Supreme Court.
Oh.
It's been tried.
Does it fly with you?
No, it's just unworkable. It's been tried like people that have objected to the Vietnam War.
Right.
And they could prove that 10% of the federal budget was going to the Vietnam War. They said, therefore, I only want to pay 90% of my taxes.
The Catholic Church is against vasectomies. Why should my insurance pay for that? Why do I have to pay for vasectomies if I'm not going to get one and it's morally objectionable to me?
Well, you could bring a case if you wanted to.
Well, what's your number?
I haven't seen anybody bring that case.
Timothy Bells, we could do this all day. You're an attorney at Olstein, Laggett, and Bells, and you're representing Representative Paul Wieland. Hope you come back as this thing works through the courts.
I'm actually doing this for the Thomas More Society in Chicago.
Oh, good.
But my clients are the Wielands.
Sure. And I didn't ambush you, did I?
No, you didn't.
I actually let you answer the questions. It's a rarity around here.
Well, thank you.
You had it.
It's a pleasure.
Cross-examined a couple times.
Yeah, he's good. He's probably not as good as he thinks he is, but he is good.
I trust me. I don't think I'm very good. Timothy Bells, you're welcome back anytime as this works its way up the court.
Thank you. You're a gentleman, and nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
8:52, Big 5.